Hello, everyone. This is Alicia.
And I'm Justine, and together we are Woo Manufacturing. We are discussing internships, which is a subject that we've talking about for a little bit of time now. And it's something that we both really respect and found a lot of benefit out of. I've had several internships, and it's really shaped the direction of my interests in my careers. And then Alicia, I believe you've had an internship, but
Just one, yeah.
you've also been a mentor for people as well, and highlight the importance of mentorship, which is something that we'll probably talk about as well.
Yeah, I've definitely hired a lot of interns in my life, as well as actually hiring said interns into full-time positions. So it's definitely something I'm passionate about on the other side. But I think today let's talk about what internships did for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I will start off by saying that I wouldn't actually have been in chemical engineering if I hadn't had my first internship.
Nice.
Um, and so my first internship was through ASE, which I don't even remember the acronym anymore. I think it's Apprenticeships in Science and Engineering, and that's a program in high school, at least in Oregon. And so my
Cool.
junior year of high school, the summer before senior year, I did an internship at a lab in at Oregon State in Dr. Skip Rochefer's lab. I still stay close to Skip to this day. Um, he is a chemical engineer who worked in polymers in the plastics sphere.
Mhm.
And his lab has always at least 4 projects going on, and all the projects feel kind of high impact worth. It spanned from e- sea trash that washes ashore on beaches in like Alaska or in island nations. Can that be compressed and used as insulation for people's homes? Um, they're doing really interesting work right now on pyrolysis, which is the process of heating up plastics in um, in a a non-oxygenated environment so that it breaks from polymers back into monomers, or like the building blocks of plastic. So getting back oil, like crude oil, back out of plastic, so giving them a second life,
Nice.
which is super cool and promising as like a recycling technique. And so in essence, when I was doing this internship, um, I worked on extensional rheology. Rheology is like the study of how plastics flow, because we
Mhm.
got to give them a fun term so that it's confusing to lay people. And from looking at my work, wasn't like, it was cool, but it wasn't, deeply inspiring. But the lab itself was just like, oh my God, what a useful skill. Like, look how varied and interesting chemical engineering can be. And so I decided I was going to be a chemical engineer. And I both bless and curse Skip now. I tell him that. I was like, you ruined my life for at least 4 years. But I have like the doors that it opened. So it was actually very impactful in shaping uh and I just gave a summer of my time, right? So it was I think it was paid, but paid like piddly.
Yeah.
Which is, we're children, we still live at home. It was okay. But yeah.
That's so cool though. And this is exactly what I want to figure out is like how do we get more of these types of things into middle schools and high schools? So I'm just
Mhm.
like really inspired to hear that's happening in Oregon. Woo, go Oregon.
Yeah. Well, and what's actually it's a good point though, and I don't remember the statistic, but it was less than 20% of applicants to this program actually got placed somewhere. So
Oh,
it's one of those things where it's like, well, damn, all those stupid nerds like me who like actually applied for a summer internship in high school would like
yeah.
you should have gotten a position, like, and it was
Right.
it was I don't remember the numbers, but say it's like 60 of us. Um, if there was over 100 people who wanted to do this program, then I wish that there was slots for that, because it is helpful. And I mean, even if you join something and it's not inspiring to you, you learn that you don't want to do biology, or you don't want to do chemical
100%.
engineering, or
Yeah.
you don't understand how programming languages work and it just doesn't work for you. It
Yeah.
sometimes the benefit of trying something you've never heard of is you're like, "Yup, don't want to do that again."
Yeah, and I guess the point there too is, like, hopefully you don't get turned off from a career choice because of a company that you worked for that just happens to
Mm.
suck.
Mhm. Mhm. That's
So,
also a good.
I I love that because my chemical engineering journey was I was in high school and I was at a high school that wasn't that great. Like, I had to start back at pre-calculus in college because apparently I didn't learn anything in calculus even though I was, like, math department scholar of the year. Uh, so, I mean, but
They're like, "If your pearls among swine, it doesn't count." And you're like, "Well, what the fuck? Come on."
Uh, so yeah, I mean, but my chemistry teacher, I was in organic chemistry in high school, which is cool that I had that opportunity at least. And he was like, "You really like chemistry? Okay. You should be a chemical engineer. They get paid way more. You're gonna love
Okay.
that." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna be a chemical engineer." And that's literally what it was.
Oh my god. Well, okay, honestly, I've talked to other people, in my program. It's like, "Oh, why did you choose chemical engineering?" And, you know, there was only a handful of people who are willing to say the quiet part out loud, which is, "You can make money. You can make decent money."
Right.
And also there's at least it's stated, "Oh, if you get an engineering degree, you're useful and you'll get a job."
Yeah.
I'm currently unemployed, but that's,
It's different.
whatever. It's
It's
different.
different.
It's different.
You're gonna be fine.
I'm fine, maybe. But so when was your internship? When did you end up doing an internship?
Yeah, it was basically between junior and senior year, and I don't think I did one previously because I didn't really know much about it, and I had this weird relationship with school where I was working at Wells Fargo Bank for all of that time. I started working at Wells Fargo Bank, in high school, and then I got a job at the one that's in University District right by the college, and it was great. I could park my car in their parking lot, so I didn't have to, like, figure that out and whatever, and actually, like, did really well and got promoted and became a personal banker, and they literally tried to talk me into, like, quitting college to go into banking, and I was like, no." But I ended up just my parents did freaking amazing, like, they paid for so much of my college, and I didn't have to take out any student loans or anything, but I also had to, like, go earn money to pay for my rent and pay for things that I had to do. So I was, like,
Mhm,
working a lot during the summers, and I
mhm.
just didn't have anybody that was like, "Hey, here's what you should do. You should do internships." I had no idea. I'm the first kid that from my family that went to college and all that. So eventually I was like, "Okay, I think I need to do a internship." And I applied and I got an internship with NOAA, the, government agency people. Um
They do
and
oceanic science. What is it again?
yeah. Yep.
National Oceanic.
Yep. And so this
Yeah.
was very like it was environmental type stuff, but my boss was a chemical engineer and we were going to the Islands. So I was on St. Paul Island up in the Bering Sea, and we were basically cleaning up contamination that the US left. Lots of barrels of, crude oil and nasty stuff in the ground, and these people that lived there, the Aleuts, they, were living on this land and the Americans had to come like clean it up. So we were literally like digging up that we had excavation going on, and they were digging everything up, and then they would take samples and they would give them to me, and I had my little ATV and I would like have a cooler on the back, and I'd get my samples from the dirt and I'd run to the lab. The lab had a non-working hood and I was dealing with cyclohexene, so I'm pretty sure that's not what gave me breast cancer, but not great. uh
Oh
but
my god.
but anyway, I was doing thin layer chromatography of this to find out like what level of contamination is left, because we would basically like dig until there was no contamination, and then the plan was to send this dirt to some place to go have it burned somewhere in the middle of the ocean or something. I have no idea what happened with it, but it really was a pretty kick-ass experience, because I was working with these contractors that are environmental contractors, and trying to make this right. I mean, that felt super rewarding and all of that. And it was just a really wild experience, but literally did not shape what I wanted to do at all.
No,
But it
that
was
is
really
funny.
fun. They took me to REI and they bought me really cool like rain gear and stuff, because it was like cold in the middle of the summer, and I got to see people hunt seals, which the natives are allowed, but it was pretty crazy. I got to see some crazy stuff.
No, it does sound like you became really like up close and personal, and that I think that that's part of the reward of internships is like, yeah, you don't want to work in the Baltic and like live under a fume hood that doesn't actually work and like
Right.
have sand in every crevice of your body because you're working in a windy beach. But you also didn't necessarily know, and this was between a junior and senior year of college, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really pivotal time because we would get to senior year, and I knew a bunch of folks who would do PhD programs or something because they didn't know what they wanted to do. They didn't know
Mhm.
what jobs were available. And it's kind of interesting talking to pretty much anyone working in industry, but if you talk to engineers specifically, I'm certain the person who's taking samples for the purpose of tracking these contaminants out in the sticks, on the beach, with natives and out and about, like, didn't ever think that they were gonna do this when they were just doing, like, OChem lab in
Yeah, you have no idea that
university.
that's
You
even
have
a
no idea
thing.
where you're gonna end up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, uh, that's cool. That's cool that you got to do that and that you learned that you didn't necessarily want to continue that, but it was cool to glimpse something other than, um, inside of a bank for a summer, you know?
Yeah. No, and there were some other random things, like, I mean, this was where they would record like the deadliest catch with a lot of the people that were going out and, getting the crabs, and I made friends with the locals, and they all had stories. There were only 500 people on this island, and sadly somebody passed away the summer we were there, and we all went to the funeral and things like that. I mean, it was just
Oh,
this
wow.
crazy sense of community, and they all like took me in. I was told not to hang out with the locals, not to go. There was one little bar on this island, and I was told not to go there. I totally went there because nobody tells Alicia what to do. But I made really good friends, and there was one time when the island ran out of beer, and so I was with my local native friends, and we were waiting for the barge to come in to deliver the beer so the liquor store could sell beer again. And it's just like the
God.
funniest story that I can even think of. We had bonfires like every weekend. It was freaking wild. So yeah, what a cool opportunity. And I did think for a minute, okay, environmental is pretty cool. You get to be outside, you get to go to cool places, you get to do all of this stuff. I was making an impact. I was making this land better. I was getting the contaminants out for these people, these Aleuts. I mean, that felt really, really good. But again, did not translate to what I want to do, which
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I got out of school and I was like, hey, I need to get a job. So I got a job at a cheese company down in Texas, a private label cheese company. I was a production supervisor for a new greenfield line, and not engineering at all, but like taught me a whole bunch about like manufacturing and all of that. But like, I think if I would have done more internships, I would have at least known what industry I wanted to go into.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I didn't want to go into oil and gas. I just knew that. I just felt like I knew that. So yeah, I'm just curious for you, Justine, having gone to an internship in high school and then kind of understanding what you want to do. How did that lead to other internships? And yeah, tell me about some of those and how it shaped who you are today, and you very much know what you want to do and the things you want to be involved in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, after seeing the work that Skip's lab was doing, I was already pretty motivated to um, work on plastics or the plastics problems, or at least do an environmental impact kind of consideration. I was fortunate enough to get into a summer internship program that happened both my freshman year and my sophomore year, where I worked in an environmental engineering lab, also at Oregon State, because that's where I went for undergrad. And I say that like I did graduate school. I did not do graduate school. I went there for college. But so in this environmental lab, I actually built a reverse osmosis piece of equipment in order to
Cool.
concentrate. This lab was looking at river water and how different species of chemical kind of travel down the rivers and things like that, and propagate. And they needed river water samples that was representative of the organic materials in the river and this, that, and the other. But storing that much river water in the fridges was taking up a lot of real estate. So they wanted to concentrate it and then use deionized water to re-dilute it to the right concentration. So this is a long-winded way of saying I built this equipment called reverse osmosis, which is where you essentially squeeze out the water molecules and you get like a concentrate. And usually you do this so you can have really clean water, but we actually wanted like what we called the brine side. It was interesting. But um when I wasn't squeezing water from water, I was working in the lab doing what's called a titration, which is essentially you have a beaker of liquid that's being agitated or mixed, and you're putting in small amounts of other chemical. And as it dissolves, it changes the pH of it, and you're trying to drop out of solution certain things. And I learned that I hate pipetting and I hate working in the lab. That's what I learned from that work experience. I was like, okay, so I don't want to do analytical work. I don't want to do lab work. It is interesting, but it's not, it just doesn't do a lot for me. And so those were my first 2 years of college. And then my second 2 years of college, I actually got into a different internship program called MECOP, which stands for Multiple Engineering Cooperative. And this is done through at least Oregon State and I think Portland State. And I think there's another university. Please don't hate me, folks of MECOP. But
It's
um,
such a good program.
it's
I
such
worked
a
with
good
an
program.
intern when I was in Albany, Oregon. I worked with an intern
Oh, you
from there.
did?
Yeah, it's such a good program.
Oh, that's great. Okay, yeah. So how MECOP works is if you get into the program, you get 2 6-month long paid internships in college. And your junior and senior year, most people end up having to do at least another term or another year to finish their senior year. But the benefit of going out into industry, and for 6 months, right, for half a year, which is not
Mhm.
that long by industry standards, but it is a significant amount of time to actually do a project or two of worth, because you have like about 2 months of getting to know the company and getting to know who's who and like who's useful and all that. And then you actually get um 4 to 5 months of actually rocking and rolling and being useful, boots on the ground.
Mhm.
um this experience was helpful for me because at the first place, I learned that I really do like a manufacturing environment. I like being on the floor. I learned that I was good at writing operating instructions, and I liked
Mhm.
translating technical things to how is somebody going to interface with this. This is actually where I learned the term carpet dwellers from the folks working on the floor, because
Amazing.
the company I was at had a protocol for all new workers, including the interns, that the first 2 weeks of working, you cycled through every stage of the production process. So you would go out on
I
the
love
floor.
that.
I did too, because I sat there and um, this company made polishing pads for the wafer industry. So essentially, like wafer technology, what computer chips are made out of, are big flat plates, and they need to be extremely flat and planar. And so they make these big plastic waffles that they use to planarize. Like they just like rub the wafer down, and like there's a whole industry making big plastic waffles to support semiconductors, go figure. But essentially you would make it like they would pour the plastic batter onto this big flat plate, and then it would squish it like a waffle, and then you had to take your little scraper and peel this hot waffle of plastic off of the plate, and the work was like kind of above your head and you had to pull it down. And I realized that like my shoulders were sore by the end of the day of just doing it
Mhm.
for like 2 days in a row. And so I was talking with the
Mhm.
guy who was like, he's like in his 60s, and he's very smooth and suave and very fit still. And he's like, yeah, I get my workout in, I get my lat pulls and my thing. And he's like, and it's good when the kids come out here, and it makes you realize that is like there's a lot of work being done out here. And sometimes, the carpet dwellers lose touch with what we're doing out here on the floor. And I was like, I just thought it was very touching. And so I learned from that experience that I didn't want to particularly lose touch with the floor, right? And so,
You are
um,
not a carpet dweller,
I am
and
not a carpet
and
dweller,
but
man.
also you got to bring that into my world and many others' worlds, and it's such a good term.
It is, because it's the folks who just, if you don't put steel toes on in a day and you don't feel what the folks touching the product are feeling, your work is still valid. It's just different work. And if
Mhm.
your work ends up limiting the work of the production floor in any way, because you lose perspective of what kind of matters. Because, like, if you're a company that produces things, if you're standing in the way of production because you need to, I don't know, you really think you need like an accent wall and you want to like disrupt production to paint a fucking wall, I'm gonna freak out at you. Okay. Like,
I
get out of
know.
here. You have no perspective of what matters to me. Uh, um, but at any rate,
I know
um,
I have one caveat on this, like, literally somebody we worked with previously, he's at a company where the software developers are basically building the HMI for the thing that his team is gonna run in
mhm,
manufacturing, and they haven't even included him. They haven't talked to him, they haven't showed him any of their HMI human machine interface. It's what the operators, like, touch to say, "Go, start, stop," all of that kinda stuff. They
yeah,
haven't even, like, engaged him at all to say, like, "What do you think? Do you think this will give the operators what they need? Will this help them?" And it just happens so much, which is why the carpet dweller thing is so perfect.
yeah, it's whack to me, because like, and there will even be people who do work on the floor, but they kind of dwell not on the floor. And I've
Yeah.
had instances where people will just like add an alarm to something, um, even though the equipment isn't in danger and nobody's in danger. It's just like, hey, it's like a chime almost, like ding dong, refill me, ding dong. And it's not like stopping anything.
And we call that nuisance
And I
alarms, yeah.
tell them, and I tell folks later, or I ask, I was like, why did you add this alarm? They're like, oh, I thought it would be clever. And like, then they respond to it faster. And I was like,
Clever.
no, it means that I have to sit there on, because my desk is on the floor, and I have to listen to this like chime go off when people are at lunch and whatever. And what it actually turns into is me responding to the freaking equipment, because like you don't live on the floor. Like,
Mhm.
don't ding dong, we hate you, ding dong, isn't
And
this
that
cute?
turns
And you're
into
like, no.
yeah, that turns into desensitization and
Oh,
actually does an
immediately,
opposite effect, yeah.
immediately. Yeah, people block out alarms all the time when they just pop
Exactly.
up. and then you almost don't pay attention to things that matter, right? So,
Exactly.
but yeah, so that was my first industry experience. It made me respect some things. I ended up actually commissioning equipment in the lab, so I was in the lab again, and I
Mhm.
reiterated that I don't want to do lab work. And
You gave it one more shot, and then you were like, "Nah."
nah, I mean it's good. It's good that I understand how to traverse an analytical lab, prep samples, how to keep things clean, how to triple wash stuff. Like it's good to know how to be in a lab. I just didn't want to be a chemist, right? I'm a chemical engineer. And
And
so
labs are crucial, yeah, to certain processes, and
and
so,
and
yeah, at
and
least it
some
gave you a respect
people
for that.
make so much like they like that work. They
Yeah,
like doing exact and repetitive and seeing small trends move, and like it's imperative that they're there,
yeah.
and it's imperative that there's different types of people out there because I would not care as much and probably wouldn't be a good lab person. So
Mhm.
um my next internship was at a company that was very old industry. It's been doing the same thing at the same factory for like 60 years.
Wow.
And it was cool in the sense that it was big chemical processes that I actually got to see live. And it was cool because I worked with really literally pickled like union operators, and I got to learn how union folks communicate, and I really got to sit and talk with people because honestly, an industry that's been running very stable for at least the last 30 years, people are not willing to change. So you're kind of
Yep.
just like you get to chit chat for like 30% of your day and you really get to meet people. And so I learned that I was not stoked on working in an environment where the industry was really stable. Like continuous improvements, like small tweaks to a very stable process in a space where people aren't really clamoring for change was just too stagnant for me.
Mhm.
Um, and so I knew from these experiences, like in order, chemical engineering is varied and impactful, good career path to try. I cared about the polymer industry and trying to correct plastics in general. I liked working on the floor, and I didn't love being in a slow scale or a well matured company. And so I ultimately got my hopefully last internship summer after college at a startup that was recycling batteries because it checked a lot of the boxes of the things that I wanted to do polymers, but nobody recycles polymers, so because they're not valuable enough yet. Um, and it was great. It was invigorating. It was extremely fast paced. I had a lot of responsibility. The work that I did felt impactful. The people I worked around were mission driven and really cool.
Yeah.
And I felt super jazzed. And I was just and thankfully that internship turned into a job. I got hired full time, and it was fucking awesome. And like I uh, I wouldn't have gotten there if I didn't actually, you know, fuck around and find out. Like I cut a lot of different things. I picked things up and I put down the aspects that I didn't like and I applied for the things that I enjoyed, and I was lucky enough to get into these programs that exposed me to different opportunities. And I have buddies. I have my brother-in-law who he did the MECOP program, and he continues to work at a company that he did an internship there. He continued part-time his senior year
Awesome.
of college, and then he worked there, and he loves that place. He's like ride or die.
Yep.
Um, and it's awesome. I think that's great. There's a bunch of other people who are like, "Want to work there again," and that's okay too, you know?
Yeah. I like the point that you made about at least you find out that you don't wanna do that, whether it's that
Sure. Or,
company
like,
or it's
aspects of it, right? Like, is it the
yeah.
flavor? Is it the industry? Is it, like, I don't wanna work with people who are just trying to put their 9 to 5s in, and they don't really give a
Yep.
fuck about moving anything forward, like, no one's motivated,
Yeah.
and I think that's fine. I think if you are exhausted in a day because everyone's staying extra hours and it drives you nuts, then then don't work in a fast-paced place. Work in a place that will let you go to your kid's soccer practice and
Yep.
whatever, like if that's important, that's good.
Yep.
So,
And I
yeah.
think you and I both worked with people at our company where we felt like we were putting in all these crazy hours probably when we shouldn't have or whatever because we were
Mhm.
so excited and passionate and all of that. And then we'd have people that we truly respected, and I'm thinking of a few that just had boundaries and
Yeah.
they still were able to be successful and all of that, but they were able to go home and spend time with their kids. It kind of like was a wake up call for me.
Yeah, and those folks also, when they started at a fast-paced company, stated a hard line of like, "I will be a present parent," right?
Yeah.
"I'm gonna see my kids grow up. I'm working this job because I care about it, but also because you pay me to be here,
Yeah.
and you don't pay me extra to be here." And let's be fair, they weren't doing 40 hours a week. They were still doing 50 hours a week. They just weren't doing 70 hours a week like some people, um,
Yeah,
or on
exactly.
call 24/7 for 3 months straight.
Womp
So
womp. I still
and
like
they do call.
I still have anxiety about, like,
Bro,
calls in the middle of the night.
did I tell you that when I left, our startup, that I had to change the ringtone of my phone?
Oh,
Because
you did
I
not.
had, like, a really bad, like, Pavlov response when it would go off because 'cause I'd be like, "What's wrong? Like, is everyone okay?" And it's just my mom being like, "How's your weekend, honey?" And I'm like, "Okay, I need a new ringtone because I'm, like, triggered."
So
It's okay. It happened.
I love it so much. So, yeah,
Um,
I wanna circle back then and find out, like, you had a very rich internship experience, and it probably helped you kinda shape who you are today from a career perspective. Can you, like,
mhm.
walk me through how you went from polymers to battery recycling and now, like, you worked at a battery company after that and all of that? Like, what were the secret sauces that got you going and figured out what you wanted to do?
It unfortunately, it gets a little cliche because it mattered a lot more of who was in my life to be able to get these opportunities. So, I didn't hear about, ASE, the internship program that I did in high school,
Mhm.
um, on my own. I heard about it actually from a friend's parent who ended up being kind of a mentor to me. She also introduced me to ESS, the company that I most recently was working at.
Mhm.
But her daughter, my friend, did this program. She suggested that I apply to it. I think I might even had her as a reference, and she um, super cool, works in, labs, like, near Intel, and, her lab would be lab space for startups, and she had a good, like, heartbeat of organ industry, but
Mhm.
she got me into ASE, or she introduced me to it. She was a good reference. She, saw I was a smart cookie and cared about me being engaged with sciences. I also grew up in a community where, school was important and education was important and access to science was more robust because I was in a college town. Um, and after I did my internship in Skip's lab, and then I started going to school at the university that he was located. I didn't work in his lab again, but he kind of
Mhm.
like ushered in a lot of the interns of the Johnson internship program, which is what I did my um, freshman and sophomore year. And so he was my mentor through that. And through having these other internships already, you almost get like a snowball effect, right? Like, look,
Yeah.
I'm varied, I'm hardworking. Every summer, I'm working on something. Plus, I was doing part-time work as a server and a barista. And so my grades were kick-ass. I was like trying, I was freaking working at it, right?
Right.
And then once you apply for another internship program, you say, "I've done internships before and I like them and I am a good worker and I have these skill sets from this opportunity." You then get used to interviewing, and interviewing is its own language. And so it becomes very, you get like a real enrichment from shooting your shot at opportunities as they come along, right? If
Mhm.
somebody mentions something that's cool, or even something that they're like, "Hey, you should apply to this," you should apply to it, because it's always okay to decline something later if it doesn't fit into your life. But if you don't shoot a shot at an opportunity, then you don't know what other doors you're missing along the way,
Right.
if that makes sense.
It totally does.
So
Yeah, I guess what advice would you give to people that are in school and about internships and like the importance and what you would have done differently or the same or anything like that, just to wrap it up?
um, my suggestion for folks who are in school is truly network. The woman who got my foot in the door with my first internship, um, I met through my church. I met she's a friend of my mom. I know her daughter. Her daughter and I did, mission trips together. And she wasn't a professional in my life. She was a mom that I knew.
Mhm.
And she took an interest in me, and that was a lot of her doing. But, like, there were other folks at my church who, they did lithography or whatever the fuck, and they heard that I was in chemical engineering, and they would talk about the things that they did and who they worked with and whatever. So actually talk to people and find out their interests. And you never know, if you when striking up a conversation with, it can be a professor, but it could also be a TA, or it could be someone who volunteers on campus, or you go into your the career fairs. Everyone's looking at those, but, like, who's talking to the actual people who are working in industry? Like, do you know
Right.
friends, parents who are insightful and have good perspectives and good opportunities? Like, it doesn't have to be through a college. It can be more organic than that. Um, Good old-fashioned internet and trying is a good opportunity. Um, this sounds like a weird brag, but, like, in high school, I also walked away with a lot of internships because I was, like, one of the only people who just applied to it. I applied to every internship that I could. Not sorry,
Mhm.
not internships, scholarships.
Yeah.
Um, so it just, I don't know, just try, shoot your shot, talk to people, listen when they sound passionate about something. My other advice, my hope is, if you do get to good professional standing, advocate for continuing internship programs that you did. If you are in an
Yeah.
industry still in Oregon, can you guys offer spots to students? Because they're great workers, and even if they stink, you get some
It's
work
try
out of
before you
them.
buy. Yeah, it's
And
try before you buy.
they're cheap, they're cheap labor, they're getting paid. They think they're making like, fuck you money. They're not. They're super inexpensive. They're paid hourly. So I
Right.
don't, it goes both ways. I think that if you can create more opportunities for folks, and as folks who are kind of drifting through school, I do know some people who, when you finish your education, the diploma isn't quite enough, in the sense
Mhm.
that there are gonna be people who also had internships, or
Yep.
also, did summertime work that builds on their experience, and they can draw from that experience and explain things that they've done. That, there's a difference between, I did a project that I drew a P&ID, and I walked through a P&ID on an actual floor and corrected all the tags on all of the equipment and updated everything. Like,
Yep.
I physically walked it. There's just a difference. There's a difference between those two experiences.
100%. And as a hiring manager now, like I mean, I obviously think back to my own experience. Oh, I didn't have a lot of internships and thank God somebody hired me. But I mean, I went into production supervisor because I didn't think that I had enough experience to go into engineering. But
Sure.
as a hiring Yeah, as a hiring manager, you're like, "Oh, yeah, these people already have touched RS Logix 5000 or whatever it is on the controls front." It's like, "Okay,
Mhm.
they're gonna have a leg up." I mean, that's just natural, that's normal, that's the reality.
Yeah, and, um, opportunities it might not be the face value opportunity when you're approaching it, is all I'm saying. It's more of the down the line
Yeah,
and maintaining connections, not only because they're good opportunities, but because being connected with people is good and caring about what other people are doing and listening when people are talking to you makes you a well-rounded person, and it it could really pay off later.
connections
Sometimes
are
literally.
everything.
Yeah,
And
sometimes literally.
I'm the living, breathing experience from that. Like,
Mhm.
I just started my business and I'm being connected to people that I worked with over 15 years ago. I'm still in touch with people that mentored me 20 years ago, and I'm being asked to work on projects with these people that I haven't talked to in all those years because they still remember my work ethic. They still
Mhm.
remember our relationship and all of that. So I think what Justine mentioned is like relationships and networking is everything, and just always know that this could be a future opportunity for you.
Absolutely. And I keep in touch with, every mentor I've had from my internships, I continue to talk to. So, I think
It's
it's
so
good.
important.
Yeah.
This is such a great conversation, and we're definitely going to talk more on these topics. Um, yeah,
Yeah. But for now, everyone take care and, keep branching out.
keep branching out, get all that experience, and we're here for you. Bye.
Bye.